Hello, it's me again. I want to talk today about something somewhat lighthearted, but something that also gives me a bit of stress from time to time. Um, I'm a pretty avid gamer. I play quite a few different games, challenging games for the most part, and I love the challenge of it. But sometimes it does cause me a bit of stress when I can't progress past a certain point. And if it's something I'm dealing with on my own, I'm it's usually no big deal. I'll just put down the game, come back to it later, cool off. But if it's something I'm participating in with someone else, then it can become even more frustrating. The main reason for this is because playing games with someone, whether you're participating directly together or someone is watching, you're streaming with friends or something, it can get very frustrating because there are certain social expectations that may come with that. For example, I sometimes stream games with my friends, just to kind of share in something. Maybe it's a story-driven game, so they watch me play it and they enjoy the story along with me. But if they see that I get frustrated at certain points, their immediate reaction might be to tell me, "Oh, why don't you just look it up? I know you're getting stressed by it, so just look it up." But I usually refuse to do that because I like to figure things out for myself. That's part of the enjoyment. But if somebody is pressuring me to look it up all the time, then that just makes the fun plummet for me. Like, I don't like doing that. I don't like to be pressured into doing certain things when I'm trying to do something that is enjoyable for me. And I understand that there's an aspect of enjoyment for the other person too, but I'm not gonna force myself through a game just to complete it. I'm playing it for the challenge as well, not just to clear it. Um, and this can get even trickier whenever you're trying to do multiplayer games with some people. Sometimes there will be people that you talk about games with, and you want to participate in that with someone. You want to engage in that activity with someone, but maybe they're not at the time able to do that, and so they might ask you, "Hey, could we put this off and we can play this later together? I want to be able to experience this alongside you. I don't want, there's people like to be able to experience things together for the first time because there's an enjoyment in sharing in that first time experience. But sometimes it becomes a little bit unreasonable to me when somebody asks me to put something off that there is no particular timeline on, like as far as when they're going to be able to get to it. Because I've been asked to put off certain games like Monster Hunter, or I want to say it's a sci-fi game. I can't remember what it's called now. It was a free to play game. I can't think of what it's called now. It's not Mech Warrior, but it's something similar to that. But anyway, I've been asked to put off games because somebody wanted to experience it with me, but they weren't able to get to it at that time because either they didn't have the game, they didn't have the system required to play it, or their system was incapable of playing that at the time, so they needed to get something better. But by the time they were ready, or maybe never ready, I would have missed out on diving into that community. And then that creates resentment in me towards that person because they asked me to wait with no particular timeline, and then I've missed out on the hype of the game, the biggest part of the game, because some of these games are community driven, and I didn't get to experience it the way that I would have liked to have done it when it was fresh. So that always felt very unfair to me. So I think right now, if it comes to stuff like that, if somebody's, you know, if it's like a movie or a video game, if we put it off for like a week or two, that's fine. That's more than reasonable. But if there is no particular end point in sight, as far or starting point rather in sight, then I'm just not going to do that anymore because I'm not going to miss out on something that I want to enjoy as well because of someone else. That's just not fair to me. Um, because it's happened several times that that person, not one person in particular, but people that may have asked me to do that were never able to get into it in the first place. So I just completely missed the boat. It felt like on that, and then I don't know. I also get kind of frustrated with competitive games, and I had grown up with competitive stuff before, like RTSs such as StarCraft and Warcraft, and I usually played those with my friends. And there wasn't really any big expectation about it. It was just, play several rounds, see what you can do, test it out the stuff, and it was all very experimental way back in the late '90s and early 2000s. But as time has gone on, games have gotten much more competitive, more sport-like in nature, and the part that can get frustrating about that is uh, when you're trying to play that with friends, then you need to kind of be on the same level with one another, or you're going to make it less enjoyable for everyone else. And I learned that the hard way when I first started playing Dota 2. Um, it's one of the most toxic communities I've ever been in. I don't know how it's changed now, but people are really mean in that game. They're super mean and they take it so seriously. And back then I didn't quite understand that because I'd never played before that point a game with a ranked matching system. And there's a quick play system and there's a ranked system. The quick play system is usually all totally random people, and you get what you get. But in the rank system, everybody is more or less at the same level, or like 5 or so points away from each other, something like that. I don't exactly know how the matchmaking works, but in ranked, people take it much more seriously because their goal is to get their rank higher and higher. And when I first started playing a game like Dota, the friend that I was playing it with eventually got very frustrated with me as he was helping me learn the game because I was fucking up a lot in ranked matches, and I was getting frustrated at him too because he was getting mad at me for something that I thought was supposed to just be fun. That was the, I don't know the right word for it, but the conflict in my head about it. It was like, this is supposed to be something that we're supposed to enjoy together, and not for me to make him mad at me for. And at that time, in my head, video games were something that you shouldn't get super mad at somebody for because it is just a game. I was trying to paint it in like, oh, in the grand scheme of things, would universe survival, whatever. This isn't something that somebody should put that much emotional energy into because it just leads to upset. But at the same time, I realize that people do put a lot of time in it and they put a lot of effort into it. And that is something that should be respected. I think if he had explained that to me a little bit better, I probably would have understood. But I don't even remember what was said at the time, but he just got very, very upset with me that I wasn't taking it as seriously as he was because I didn't understand the dynamic and the culture behind that sort of game. So I think, when I get into new games these days, especially if it's of a competitive nature, I always make sure that I'm of the, at the right level with others before I play, or just go into the quick matches or the bot matches until I get better at it, and can achieve those higher levels. And at the same time, now I play games like Marvel Rivals these days, and I can see the frustration that causes, from a ranked point of view, because I do try to get into ranked matches these days. Although I'm not terribly good at it, I feel like I am better than average, at least, because at least where it comes to paying attention to things, because people will blame you for their own mistakes. For instance, like if you're of a healing class, they'll say, "Oh, you didn't heal me. What the fuck are you doing?" That's why I died. But oftentimes it can come down to things like positioning or aggressiveness, things like that. And it's really hard to match up real well with people that are totally random. You really need to go into that sort of thing with a team if you are really serious about the competitive part of it. Playing solo is almost a nightmare in that game for like Marvel Rivals. But Dota is another thing all entirely. It has an extra layer to it that I don't really like to engage in these days. There's like the meta. There's there's a pretentious air of games like that, and the people that play them. And it's not just that game either. It's I play Final Fantasy 14, for example. There's a pretentiousness that pervades it when it comes to doing things the right way. So instead of discussion about the strategy of how certain things should be performed, if you're trying to do like cooperative content, there's always a pretentiousness about how people want things to be done. It's either one way or no way at all, and people can never agree. Or the way that people communicate is just unnatural. So, for example, and I understand people learn in different ways, but if you're trying to explain like what is on a map, for example, I will usually use north, south, east, west, but not everyone is used to that. And I personally find it difficult to understand that perspective. Why can't you tell your directions? Like, I can understand if not knowing where north, south, and east and west are when you're like standing in the middle of a field, like on your own with no compass in real life. But if you're looking at a map on a video game, it shows compass directions usually, and you should be able to remember what those are. And so sometimes people will say things that are more confusing, like relative to the boss or looking at the boss left or right. But left and right are relative based on how the person is faced. But north, south, east, west are standard all the time. Those directions do not change whatsoever. So that's another aspect of gaming that sometimes causes me stress, is those sort of communication gaps. And then people make assumptions, and then they dogpile on you, and then they abuse you verbally. And the people are incredibly mean. Incredibly mean. I don't understand why games, something that's supposed to be fun, makes people so fucking mean. It doesn't make any sense to me. It makes me think, get a life, you know? And there are certain things, like if you feel like if something's being done unfairly, yes, anger is very natural. But if somebody makes a tiny little mistake and you blow up on them, that's unreasonable. That's just stupid. And I think people lack empathy when they react to somebody like that. So, but part of it is something that I have to get over as well, because I'm not very good at taking criticism. If it's not constructive, that is. Like if somebody is giving me pointers, that's one thing. But if somebody calls me a dumbass, then that just shuts communication down completely. I'm going to ignore that person, and I'm going to think that person's an asshole. Or depending on how they phrase it, I might even go as far as thinking that they're evil, because why are you talking to somebody like that, another human being that has feelings? Why are you going to say things that are potentially going to cause somebody sadness or depression? Or why are you going to treat somebody that way? That's something that I always have difficulty reconciling, even with simple communication aspects like that. But anyway, that's where I'll leave it here for now. Thank you for listening. Find love and light in your life, and thank you very much.